Welcome, Wrestlebuddies, to the Wrestlebuddy podcast. I'm joined today by an absolutely amazing guest. I'll try and do him some justice in an intro. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's an innovator in some of the most amazing matches, first in matches. He's a tag team specialist and all-round wrestling legend, Devon Dudley. Devon, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking your time. So, Devon, the first question I'm going to ask you, because I just think it, when everyone thinks of the Dudley Boys or, yourself, they always think of ECW and, working with, what was it like in ECW working with Paul Heyman and, at the start of your career?
Well, it was special. It was also scary. For me, it was because I was so used to the Hulk Hogan, Andre era. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and all that good stuff. The storyline, the cartoon characters, because I grew up on that. So I'm in a club one night, bouncing at a club, and they had like 6, 7 different TV monitors, and one had wrestling on it. And of course, they knew I was an up-and-coming and inspiring wrestler, so they put it on the TV, and they were like, Devon, check this out. So I'm looking at it, and I know it's not WWE. And as I'm looking, I see Ron Simmons hitting somebody with a trash can. Now, I had never seen that before. I don't think anybody had ever seen that before. And so here it is. The first time I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, man, trash can, wow. And then I saw the table with Sabu going through, and I was like, oh, who the hell is this? I had never heard of these guys, except for Ron Simmons. Of course, I've heard of him. But Sabu and all those guys, I had never heard of them. And I knew nothing about dirt sheets. I knew nothing about, interviews like this, nothing. I was very green to the business. I only knew what WCW, the NWA, and WWE wanted you to know about wrestling. I wasn't a smart mark, so I didn't know. And I'm watching this, and then I see Cactus come out with a barbed wire bat. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, are you serious right now? And they're hitting people, and I go, this is crazy. I go, I can never do anything like this. I fast forward. I was about to quit wrestling. Nothing was working out for me. It felt like it. And it felt like I really wasn't going anywhere. I remember asking my trainer, Johnny Rods, to make a phone call to Tony Gurria or Jack Lanza, because he said he spoke to them a lot because he worked with them back in the WWF days. And when I realized that Johnny wasn't making that phone call, I started to get upset and angry.
Yeah.
But he wasn't making the phone call because he knew I wasn't ready for it. So he never made the phone call. And I was getting frustrated, and then I was having personal problems at home. And that really made it. So I quit. I wound up quitting the business. I walked away. And all of a sudden, when my boys were born, my twin boys who are wrestling now, when they were born, I remember just looking at them going, okay, I'm going to make this happen. I went back to the school. Johnny, I was busting my behind for about 5 or 6 months. Johnny took notice, and he goes, I trained Tommy Dreamer and Taz, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, there's a guy named Big Dick Dudley, but his real name is Alex Rizzo. And I was like, yeah. I said, I know you trained all of them. He's like, yeah, they're in that new league called ECW. What do you think about it? And at first, when you could have a conversation with yourself for about 30 seconds, but it winds up being like a 20-minute conversation. I had it real quick in my head. I don't want to go there. That shit's crazy. I was like, who the fuck hits people with barbed wire bats and all of that? That's not wrestling. But what came out of my mouth was totally different. I went, oh, yeah, I would love to do that. And I remember after the conversation, I went, why the hell did I say that? And he goes, okay, so he made the phone call, and Johnny spoke to Taz. Taz was the guy who was in charge of the dojo at the time. And I went down there. I had my tryout with Perry Saturn in the ring. Bubba was in the corner. At that time, Bubba was a young boy in the business. So he pretty much, when you're a young boy, as we know, you do whatever you're told to do. So if it means stay in the corner and don't move, you don't move.
Yeah.
If it means face the corner without looking behind you, that's what you do. And so that's what he did. And Bubba, grew up old school, so he did it. And I just remember seeing him in the corner and going, "Oh, that's the guy that stutters." And I think sign guy Dudley was there too at the time at my tryout. And I just remember hearing about Perry Saturn, meaning he was a Green Beret, he was a badass. You didn't mess with him, and blah blah blah. And he can go. And so, and plus the shape that Perry was in was tremendous, you know. And I remember my trainer telling Taz, "Hey, I got this kid. His name at the time they called me A Train. I got this kid named A Train. He'll blow everybody up and this and that." When Johnny told me, I go, "Why would you say that?" I said, "Why would you say that to these people?" I was like, "That's not right." I was like, "These people are not normal." I was like, "They use barbed wire bats, thumbtacks, and all of that." I said, "I don't want to do that. Don't do that." And what happened was I did a spot with Perry Saturn, and I remember when I was done, he was on one knee at the end of it, and I'm bouncing around. I'm this young, ready to go, vibrant, guy, and I got all this energy. And Taz goes, "So what do you think, Perry?" Perry's on one knee. He goes, "Yeah, the kid can go." He said, "The kid can go." And I was like, "All right." And he was like, "Do you want to see anything else?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever you want to do. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go." And Perry goes, "No, that's okay. I think he's good." And Taz goes, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm sure. The kid can go." And I got my approval papers by Perry Saturn, being in the ring, and earned a lot of respect from Perry after
Yeah.
that. I think if you were a Johnny Rods guy, which people knew being trained by Johnny Rods, meaning you knew how to work,
Yeah.
I think the respect level was out the window. I mean, was way up. I should say out the window. The respect level was high up because they knew you knew how to work,
Yeah.
and I got that vibe from Perry and them. And not only that, but then being introduced to the ECW family, you know, I guess they took a liking to me, welcomed me in with open arms, and next thing you know, I was part of the family. So it was a great time. After all of that story I just gave you,
That's
it was a great time. Um, I was scared to death, but at the same token, the first thing I learned how to do when I came in the ECW was swing a chair. Poor JT Smith got the hell beat out of him. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Paul just told me, he goes, "Devon, you got to swing this chair. If you don't swing it right, these fans will shit on you, and I won't be able to use you for the next 6 months to a year. So you have to
absolutely.
be able to swing this chair." And I told Paul, I said, "I don't know how to swing a chair." He was like, "Don't worry. Just bring it up and down. That's it." He didn't tell me how hard. I was like, "Oh well," and gave JT Smith a concussion where his wife told him he didn't want him wrestling anymore,
Yeah.
because he was getting hurt so much, and that was kind of like the last draw. To this day, anytime I see JT Smith, I hug him and apologize. I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And he, "Devon, it's okay. Don't worry about it, Python."
Brilliant.
I'm like, "All right, cool." But I love ECW. ECW was where I got my start. When no one else would give me a shot, ECW did. So I will always be grateful for ECW. And I will also always be a Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. Some people, say what they say about Paul, but Paul protected me in a lot of ways with this business. I could have been crushed a long time ago because a lot of people don't realize it's not what you do in the ring, it's what you do
Absolutely.
outside the ring that matters. That can either make or destroy your career.
Yeah.
And I was young. I was a young punk, and growing trying to fill my royal oats and all of that, and I was getting a little bit of trouble along the way. Not much, but just like little things here and there, but that could have destroyed me, and it didn't. And I was being taught by Dreamer
Hmm.
and Paul Heyman what to do and what not to do, which I believe every young promising star at some point needs to have that guidance to guide them along the way.
We've just got a question in the chat here from Zain Jafari. Hello, would love to know what Yvonne thinks of the current roster and his thoughts on if Vince McMahon might have eyes on any particular young talent he plans on giving a strong push too soon.
Well, I think this young roster nowadays. I think it's great. They're very innovative. Sometimes I do feel that they're not able to do what they fully want to do. But you got to understand, Vince has to have a leash
Mm,
on people. Because sometimes you can let them go, but then sometimes you got to pull them back. It all depends on what it is.
Mm.
I love the Usos. I love the New Day. As a producer, being backstage, a lot of my matches, of course, are the tag team matches, which is with the New Day and the Usos. Now, I've been out of commission for a little bit because of my back. I got to have a little bit of surgery. Not major surgery like slicing me open from the top to the bottom, but it's like a little incision to fuse two discs,
No, I
L4
have
and
actually,
L5.
yeah, I've had the same
Yeah,
issue.
and what I'm loving about this is that the operation procedure has gotten better over the years. So much better where they can go in through the side and do what they have to do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that major back surgery that everybody dreads on getting.
Mm.
It's a lot easier, and the recovery time. They said I can walk out of the hospital and be good within a month or so.
Brilliant.
So I'm looking
Well,
forward to getting this done
fingers
because the
crossed.
pain is excruciating.
Fingers crossed it works out for you.
Yeah,
I think one thing,
yeah,
give
but I
give
mean,
you any advice on that, I'd say memory foam soles are your best friends.
yes, yes, and I'm doing that now. Going through rehab with the massage therapy, the manipulation, and all of that. So
Fingers crossed.
being that going through all of that, I've been off a little bit, so I haven't really been at work.
Yeah.
The WWE has allowed me to stay home and to get this done, which has been great.
Oh,
But I do miss it. I do miss those guys, especially the last couple of matches that they've had,
yeah.
which has been
Well,
tremendous. I mean, really. And then for the
we always say on Wrestlebuddy, there's always a saying: "The Usos don't have a bad match."
Yeah, they
So,
don't. They really don't. And the Dudley boys had worked with both tag teams and really had success. We worked more with the New Day
mm,
than we did with the Usos. We had that WrestleMania moment in Dallas with them on the pre-show. We had other matches on live events, which was great. I think if we would have stayed around a little longer, I think that we could have elevated those matches even bigger
yeah.
to when we were with them, because again, the knowledge that those boys have is unreal,
Just
and the
just
things
to
that they want to do.
circle back to where you said about Vince reining them in and stuff like that. Is that as your job as a producer? Do you have to go through a step by step match, or do you give them kind of a little bit of a section where they can?
No, we give them, as the matches are being put together by talent, we're there to listen in and to see what works and what doesn't for them. We also have to put in Vince's vision of doing that as well. So we have to incorporate both talent's vision and Vince's vision, storyline wise, and everything to make sure that both parties are happy.
Yeah,
And the majority of my matches between the Usos and the New Day, when the bar was around, when they were together, that was my matches too. And Brody, when he was here with WWE, before he went to AEW, and of course before he passed, him and Eric, when they were involved as the Bludgeon Brothers, that when they were involved in those matches, those were pretty much mine. And the 24/7 title with Reggie, I've had great times with those. All of those matches with Reggie were great.
beautiful.
I enjoyed so much of it, and Vince was able to give me, Devon, that's your baby. You have creative control. You know what I want. My vision. Go ahead and put your twist on it. And he allowed me to do that. He allowed me to be in charge of those matches, and I think that's why we were able to be as successful as we were with the 24/7.
Yeah, and is that like basically so you're like the cook really, aren't you? You get the ingredients off the performers, the ingredients of what Vince wants, and you kind of put it all together and make it happen, so everybody's happy.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, and both talent that I've worked with, and whatever ideas that I've had to bring to the table, Vince was cool with it. Go ahead and do it. Let's try it out. There's times where Vince said, "No, I'm not looking for that. Let's try to do it this way." We say, "Okay." We come out with a compromising deal, and we go forward from there.
And just to go about wrestling styles and stuff like that, with WWE and AEW, do you see a big difference in the style of wrestling that each company is trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak too much on
Yeah,
AEW because I don't really watch the product that much. Unfortunately, my time is very consumed, especially when I'm back, you know, full range with WWE. So I don't really have time to really keep up with AEW. I hear about things, I see things on social media here and there. Um, you know, AEW kind of reminds me a little of an ECW, where it's like they're trying to. It's like we had the saying, politically incorrect and damn proud of it. You know, I'm not saying that they're trying to go against the wrestling handbook, but they're going out there and they're doing their thing, and God bless them. In my opinion, the wrestling business needs competition, whether it's coming from AEW, Impact Wrestling, NWA, regardless. We need competition. Competition is very good, as we know, during the Monday Night Wars. WCW couldn't be where they were with NWO and all of that if it wasn't for WWE doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And the Attitude Era probably wouldn't have been as successful if it wasn't for WCW
Yeah.
trying to basically win back the ratings.
And just on a point of competition and things like that, it was announced on Friday Night SmackDown that Mickey James would be in the Royal Rumble. Obviously, they announced it as the Impact Knockouts champion at the time, which suggests that there's been a collaboration between the two companies. Do you think the collaboration between two companies is good as well?
I think a lot of the fans, as well as talent, would like to see that happen because remember, this is what we did back when Vince's father, had the WWF. He would lend talent to NWA, to Crockett Promotion. He would lend talent, to whoever, Florida Championship, whoever, the Jarretts, whatever. And they would go back and forth.
Yeah.
So when one guy got, stale in one territory, they went to another, got revived, and then came back. It's a revolving door. I think that's great
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
It was done in
But
ECW as well.
egos, yes, but that was something that we didn't know. Whenever we used to ask Paul, "Are you in? Are you in with W?" No, why would I do that? Are you crazy? No, we didn't learn until later on that Paul Lee was definitely sending talent back and forth, and we had that relationship with Vince. But I think it's a great thing. Look how it worked for ECW, and look how it worked for WWE. Listen, I get it that WWE back then, let's go back then, not saying now, but back then was the monopoly when it came to pro wrestling. But at the same token, look at how ECW changed how the WWE went forward into the future. They weren't using tables, ladders, and chairs and all that until ECW started. Steve Austin wasn't drinking a beer and giving a middle finger until Sandman started doing it in ECW.
Yeah.
So does WWE owe ECW a huge thank you for help changing the face of pro wrestling? Absolutely. I don't care what people say and how they try to deny it. If it wasn't for ECW, there would be no Attitude Era, and there would probably be no Sandman drinking. Steve Austin drinking a beer. Sandman. If you watch ECW, for those I'm sure that's going to look at this podcast and know, the Sandman did it every entrance for years before Steve Austin did it. But Steve Austin did it on a network, on a major company like WWE, so that was seen first. So when a lot of the wrestling fans see it, they go, "Oh, Sandman is doing what Steve Austin did," but they don't know that it was Sandman that started it. And Steve Austin gave credit to Sandman for that. So I think it works both ways, man. I think we should go back to it.
Yeah. Well, just to go back.
But then what promoter? What promoter is going to say, "No, he doesn't go over. That one goes over," and then you get the bickering back and forth on that. So I don't know if that's a good thing nowadays or not.
I think for somebody like Impact and WWE, it could work out really well because WWE have got some talent that they're not using at the moment, or they're not using it, using quite sporadically on TV. That could go over and make a big difference in Impact. And then if you bring a few Impact stars over, that could come into, say, the Royal Rumble or a few bits. It's only going to help their profile grow, which will help Impact as well. And obviously, there's no denying WWE have the larger audience and the larger reach, as it were. So any talent that Impact Wrestling, say for instance, got on WWE TV would be big time for them in terms of exposure for that talent, and as long as it was done in the right way, where it was kind of okay, you can see these on Impact Wrestling as well.
Well, I definitely feel that with the collaboration, if again, I can't speak on it too much because again, I've been out the picture.
Yeah.
for about a month and a half or so. So, but I've just learned of this, so I'm not sure what the collaboration is. But if there is a solid one like that, then I could definitely say that it's going to help Impact.
Hmm.
If they could take, if they're able to get some WWE stars on their TV and go back and forth, then I think it'll be great for their company. I think it'll help them out tremendously.
Yeah.
And then you never know. Maybe WWE missed the boat on somebody that's in Impact now
Hmm.
and sees something in him. Now he can ask for that talent and bring them over and make a big star. You just never know.
Yeah.
This could be a very good thing.
That's it. And just to talk about, obviously, about change in WWE at the moment and how things are going differently. Obviously, it was sad news that William Regal and Road Dogg, amongst others, left NXT last weekend. What's your thoughts on the kind of direction of NXT at the moment? You feel like it's just kind of trying to rebrand completely and
Well, again, I don't know too much. I mean, again, on the I hate to say firing, but letting go
yeah,
of certain talent, whether it's producers or talent. I don't know too much of it, but I do know that William Regal was looked upon as probably one of the greatest minds in the business to help launch NXT with Triple H. Of course, Road Dogg working for both um, main roster and NXT. A lot of people praised Road Dogg for his contributions to both rosters. It's sad, but for whatever reason, WWE did what they did. You know, it's not me to
yeah.
judge or to ask questions. I do my job and I move forward.
Hmm.
They will be greatly missed because again, they were great minds and they were able to put a shot in the arm on both SmackDown, Raw, and NXT.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll be fine, and maybe one day, like everybody else says in wrestling, it's a revolving door. Hopefully they'll be able to come back, not in the wrestling form because that's what they always say. They expect us to come back wrestling, and it's like, no, we're too old to do that now. Even though some of us don't feel that way, we still want to get in the ring. But I know my time is done.
Yeah.
But I just feel that one day, it probably will come back around. We might see those guys back again. We might not. I don't know. But I do know that they will be greatly missed. And, again, it was sad news to hear,
Yeah.
about the exiting of so many great
It
people.
really was, and William Regal's statement that he released on Twitter was nothing but class, which you'd expect from somebody like him. He had nothing but praise for the
hmm
company and praise for the people he worked with. It was lovely.
Very class act Stephen Regal was. I mean, I've worked with Regal, when he was with Lance Storm.
Hmm.
Him, Bubba and I, and those guys had a tremendous run together towards me and Bubba's last uh, 2 years of our first run being in the company. So, there was so many ideas and so many things that Regal brought to the table that it was incredible, to be able to work with him. And it wasn't so much of being brutes like we were,
Hmm.
but Regal showed us how to manipulate, the fans in a good way
Yeah.
without having to use tables and the brutality of the thumbtacks and the fire and all of
Yeah.
that. Listen, I can't do his accent, but the hammer go on the back and listen,
Yeah.
bro,
Dudes be doing
you could
that.
do it this way, this way. Yeah, do it this way. You don't need the chair. You don't need the table. And Regal wasn't the one that wanted to get hit with a chair. So
Right. Well,
anytime Regal get out of it,
just
he would.
talking about you've been off for a month and you haven't been around. I don't know whether obviously I know you keep up with the product. What do you think of the Usos using the
Yeah.
3D? They've been using that the last couple of weeks.
I'm sorry.
The 3D. They've used the 3D in the matches recently.
Oh, 3D.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. Your accent is very
Ah,
strong.
sorry.
No, that's all right. I love it. Me and it. See, this is what people don't get. The Usos and I at live events and things like that had talked about them using the 3D. They came to me and asked me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. And I remember telling them, you guys can use it. Me and Bubba are not using it anymore. So why not use it?
Yeah.
I know the bar had tried it a couple of times. The bar tried it even at live events. And, Bubba came back and said something, don't make me and Devon come back. And I said, Bubba, I told him to use it. We were talking about it.
Brilliant.
And so I think it's great because, again, we've been talking about this for months. And so when I was watching the show and I saw them use it, I was shocked. I was like, oh, I literally jumped out of my seat. I was like, yes, yes, and I was like, he better not kick out. He better not kick out. Nobody kicks out of 3D, and there was no kick out, so it was great. I loved it. I texted him and I told him, I said, phenomenal match on both parties, the new day as well, of course. And I said, tremendous finish, because I remember they were doing like they did a splash or a double splash leading up, and right before that was the two double double super
Yeah.
kick, and then there was a kick out. I was like, oh my god! When I saw that, I said, there better be a huge finish after this, because there's no way they can do all of that, kick out, and then have something that's going to complement that. And sure enough, they did. It was 3D.
Brilliant. Well, just to circle back to the start of your career, obviously you ended up in ECW. You had a legendary run there, and then you made your way from ECW to WWE. What was the transition like from the ECW style and obviously the locker room and the way it was over there to when you come into WWE? How did you find the transition?
Well, I didn't think the transition was bad at all. Now, Bubba didn't have a problem with it, but his style was a little different. Um, then, of course, like again, I grew up watching WWF. He grew up watching NWA. So his era was part of the Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, and of course, our favorites, the Legion of Doom. He grew up watching that. Now, I grew up with Say Your Prayers, Brother, and all of that, and freaking the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs, that type of wrestling. So ECW was kind of like, the thing for him. He loved that style. And, so when we came over to WWE, he said that he kind of felt a little like it was a little bit more of an adjustment period for him. Because again, we could beat the hell out of people and knock them and this and that and blah, blah, blah in ECW, but you can't do that in WWE. It's a little different style. Now you can, because, we've helped to make that a reality nowadays, for what we did over the years. But back then, not too many people was doing that style. So we were blessed to be able to fall into the same boat with the Hardys and Edge and Christian. Because if you look at Edge and Christian and the Hardys, they don't look like guys that can actually, love to do that hardcore style.
Yeah.
Who wants to get hit with a chair? Who wants to get hit with a ladder? Who the hell wants to put thumbtacks on the table and freaking, throw people through it, or even light the thing on fire and put people through it? Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But those guys, I think, shocked not only us, but I think they shocked everybody, showing how tough they really were. And let me tell you something. Eddie Christian and the Hardys were tough son of bitches, boy. Especially that damn Jeff Hardy was crazy as hell.
And just to go, well, was my next question. It's a perfect time to jump in here with the TLC. How did the TLC match come about, and did you realise you were going to be part of something special when you were planning this match out?
No, I don't think anybody, anybody tells you that when a match is as special as the TLC match, if anybody tells you that they knew that there was going to be special, they're lying. We had no idea that that was going to be still talked about 30 years later. It was Vince's idea, of course, to do that type of match. The Hardys and Edge and Christian did a match right before the Royal Rumble in 2000, which was a ladder match. And I remember me and Bubba watching in the back on the monitor, and we were a little upset because we wanted to be in that match. We wanted to be a part of that. And what happened was we had just came into WWE right before that match took place, and we were like, damn it, we should be in that match. This is like a hardcore match. Why aren't we in it? And blah blah blah. And I just remember, us salivating at the mouth, waiting for the opportunity. If they ever give us the opportunity, we're gonna hang it up. We're gonna do it all. We're gonna do this. And sure enough, we were told we were gonna be in a tables match at the Royal Rumble that year. And we were like, okay, here's our moment to shine with the Hardys. And that's when we realized how tough the Hardys were.
Yeah.
Because everything that we would have done in ECW, we did that night, and the Hardys took it and kept getting back up and going for the next spot. and they were hitting us just as hard as we were hitting them. And so, with that being said, it was kind of like that's when we knew we started to have something special. And then when Edge and Christian came in the mix, and we started doing stuff that you guys didn't see on the live events and stuff like that, that's when we knew we had something special with them. And that was when we finally realized that that the six of us can actually really make magic. So, in putting that match together, we knew we had something. We knew we could turn it. We knew we could, steal a show possibly, but we had no idea it was going to be groundbreaking the way it wound up being after, everything was said and done. I mean, each TLC match got better and better. The storylines got better. We introduced new people every time we did it and helped, put Rhino on the map, Spike on the map, and Lita was already on the map, but she joined us too. And that last TLC match, when was it, WrestleMania 17, which was voted one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. It was just such a magical moment, but we had no idea it was going to be as big as it wound up being. In my opinion, I think that we should, if the NWO got inducted into the Hall of Fame,
just going to ask you that,
and those guys were already in it, how about a TLC or induction?
Yeah.
How about recognizing how special that match was? Because think about it, not only was the match special, but they actually named a pay-per-view after it. So it has some relevance to it to be special. So why not put that match in the Hall of Fame?
No, it definitely should be. I mean, it's a pioneering moment, isn't it? And as you say, it's still talked about today. And I was literally going to ask you that question because you see on social media all the time, people do say, should matches be going in the Hall of Fame? And this match is always number one on the list when anybody ever says, well, what matches would you have in the Hall of Fame? And TLC is always number one.
And here's the deal. And I'll thank you to the fans, but the one match I think that should be number one is Steamboat and Savage, WrestleMania 3, because that was the first time I feel that a match could actually change the face of the pay-per-view. When you have two guys like Steamboat and Savage, who were excellent workers, who actually helped steal the show at WrestleMania 3, I'm sorry, that's groundbreaking right there. And with Hogan and Andre being as big as it was, and at the end of that, people go, yes, remember the Steamboat Savage match? That was freaking great. As opposed to what Hogan and Andre just did. Right there, that's groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask as well is one of them type of matches. That's more from wrestlers. You hear wrestlers always going on about Tiger Mask versus Dynamite Kid.
There's so many matches that could be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, but again, I feel like the TLC, if the NWO can go in there and do that, I think the TLC match can do it too.
Yeah, definitely. So, when the Dudley Boys split and you become Reverend Devon, how did you react to that and how did that come about?
Well, me and Bubba both have said this numerous times, so this was never a secret. We never wanted to break up because we felt that there was still more to do with the Dudley Boys. And, to me, the Reverend, I can't speak for Bubba and how he felt, but I know I felt that the Reverend Devon character was working. Mm-hmm. A lot of people to this day tell me how they love that character and how they don't know what went wrong. And my biggest thing was, one of the biggest victories that I had in the TLC match, as Reverend Devon character, was the match I had with Triple H. And my opinion, I say this a lot, I don't think Hunter would have ever laid down for me on SmackDown if he thought that character wasn't good enough for him to do that or to help bring it to the next level. So apparently I was doing something right for Hunter to take that approach. And I remember Hunter giving me, some good feedback on the Reverend Devon character. I'll always be grateful for Hunter for helping me to maintain my sanity during the Reverend Devon character. Yeah. There were times that it was me and Bubba versus, say, him and Stephanie McMahon, where he would, come to me, putting the match together, and say, Devon, let's shine you. Let's get you over. I'm like, all right, great. Hunter was always in my corner. I never had a problem. And to this day, I will always say that it was Hunter that brought me in as a producer.
Yeah. know he's had his... how's he doing recently? Have you heard any news on how he's doing? I know he had a bit of a medical problem, but is he doing well?
Well, I think I'm not. I don't know personally, but from like everybody else is being told, I think he's on the road to recovery and he's doing great. And I think people are anticipating his return.
Yeah.
And I think they are going to be very happy when they see him take his rightful place.
So do you think he'll get back in the ring again?
Again, that's not a question for me. I mean, people ask me the same thing. So the only one that can answer that question is Triple H.
Yeah.
So, whatever that man decides to do, but bless him. But, you got to understand something. He doesn't really need to do anything else in the ring. He's done everything there is to do.
Yes.
So, if he's just coming back, just so people can say if he's coming back, that's something that Hunter has to, decide within himself.
Yeah. And definitely he's got to take his place in the Hall of Fame soon, hasn't he?
Oh, I'm sure that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well already call him in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure he's going to be in there.
100%. So, just with the Reverend Devon character, I really liked the Reverend Devon character. I thought that the way you portrayed it was really, really, it was good. It was really good. Just one thing with Batista, you end up getting Batista put you Deacon Batista at the time. Did you realise at the time when they put him with you, did you realise what a star he was going to become? And did they put him with you to learn off you because obviously you were a respected worker?
No, I don't even think. I think somebody knew that there was potential in Dave, but how big of a star he was going to be, I don't think if they knew it because some of the guys that look like Dave basically came into business and belly flopped, but Dave didn't do that. Dave actually went on to be a huge star, and I was very happy and proud for him. I just knew that it was going to be a hard road for me to try to get over a character that I was somewhat new to. So I'm trying to get that character over, plus protect Dave at the same time and help get him over at the same time. So I was juggling both, deals, and I don't think people knew how much pressure I had on me during that time. And I was still young in the business, mind-wise. I didn't fully get everything. If I knew what I knew now back then, I think it would have been a totally different story.
Yeah.
But I can't go back. Father Time stopped me from doing that. So.
I think that's the same in life in general. I think everybody will say, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't do.
Oh yeah.
Now, just what was Dave like to work with in his early days? Was he very receptive? Was he taking on board what you were trying to do with him? And
Dave was very respectful. He wanted to learn, but I do know Dave was such a big guy that he always had to eat every 2 hours. Because bodybuilders, they don't eat the junk food that we eat, where we can stay full for 6 and 7 hours and don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
We might have to look in the mirror and go, I don't want to see that no more. But they eat different. And Dave always, it was weird because Dave would eat clean, then he wouldn't eat clean a lot of times. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how the hell do you eat that and you still look like that? I was like, what the hell? And so, but Dave basically, he watched what he ate. He was always constantly in the gym. If I'm not mistaken, he was the one that taught me to eat every 2 hours. But of course, grilled chicken, of course, egg white, stuff like that. And watch your carb intake if you're going to do it that way, because you don't want to eat every 2 hours and eat McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
Which at one point in ECW, I really didn't care. So I'd eat 3 and 4 Big Macs. So.
Brilliant. Well, I know obviously we're rushed for time, so we'll start wrapping up very shortly. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the rise and fall of Aces and Eights and how you felt being a part of that.
Well, I loved it. I thought it was great, and I've always knocked TNA during my time being there because I felt like I was done wrong. And there's still a part of me that still thinks I was done wrong, but at the same token, there was a lot of good too. I was able to have a nice career, single-wise. I got my just due with that television title, and it was voted as, I think I was voted as one of the greatest television title holders at that time, facing everybody, doing what I had to do. I had a great run with that title belt, and the whole Aces and Eights helped me to be able to be on my own without Bubba and to do what I knew that I could do, promo wise and everything. And I think I accomplished that. I think when certain people try to come in and change what the originator of Aces and Eights tried to do with the storyline, I think that's where it went south. Eric Bischoff, like a genius like he was in WCW with everything else, um, basically it fell short because people that tried to come in basically tried to take over and didn't want Eric to be a part of it. And it was like, how do you kill Eric when he was the one that actually was the mastermind behind Aces and Eights? It was his idea. So in the very beginning, when all that stuff was paying off and everybody was enjoying it, that was all Eric. And then at the time, I'm not going to say any names, but there was somebody that took over the company at the time that came in and had a disagreement with Eric and thought that he was the one that should give the ideas of how Aces and Eights should be run. And we all knew when that happened, it was a downfall. And it sure was, it was a downfall.
Yeah, but sad because it was a really, really good stable. I mean, I put it up there with some of the best. But just a very quick one on the current tag team scenario in pro wrestling. So I know WWE have got the likes of obviously the Usos, the New Day, Street Profits, but they do also throw tag teams together quite often and kind of, hotshot them together. What's your thoughts on this, on tag team wrestling now to back when you were performing? Because, obviously you had the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, you had a lot of, the New Age Outlaws at one point with it.
Listen, I think the question that you're asking was probably the same question that was asked to so many guys during my time, coming up in the WWE. How do I feel about the new tag teams? I'm sorry, my daughter's. Take my daughter's asking for my phone. I'm sorry, huh? Here's your phone. I know. Yep. I don't read that, mommy. I know, huh? Go take the phone. See you later. I think it's the same thing like when I was growing up. You had like the Hart Foundation back then, of course, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, telling it on. Whatever four horsemen that wanted to get together at the time and do a tag team, whether it was Rick and Ole or what have you. There was so many tag teams back then, and I think people were asking the same question about that during the Attitude Era. And at that time there were tag teams they were just developing, but nobody knew how good these tag teams were going to be until years later. And I think it's the same question. Listen, I have tons of respect for today's talent, especially in WWE. I'm sorry. I get it that people may not think that WWE isn't what it used to be because it's not the Attitude Era anymore. We cannot live the Attitude Era. Listen, it was a great era, and I get it. But we have to move on and create something different and try to make it work and stand by it. Nobody wanted to give us a chance during the Attitude Era when we basically first started because they were so used to the older wrestlers and the NWA and WWF, that they were used to seeing guys that made history. And now I got these young punks that come in and trying to duplicate it, and people's like, oh, that's not going to work. And here we go, 30 years later, we're still talking about the Attitude Era tag team. And I think we're going to have the same thing that's going to happen 30 years from now with the Usos, with the New Day, and the Street Profits. I love the Street Profits. I think the Street Profits are great. I think they're great.
Yeah, they are very good, aren't they? I think Monsell Ford as well is going to be a star out of there if they ever do.
Yep, Martez is a huge star. I love Dawkins. Listen, Dawkins, for a big guy, the way he is, to be able to do the moves that he does and what he does in that ring is absolutely incredible. And again, the charisma of Martez, I love it. Because the way he is in the ring is the way he is in the back.
Yeah.
The way he is off camera, that's him. That is him to a T. And again, you got the Usos, who I love those guys dearly in the New Day. The love I have for those boys, number of respect. And I told the Usos, I said, listen, for what your father did for me coming up during the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, meaning during the Reverend Devon, it was Ron, Farouk, Ron Simmons, Farouk, and Rikishi that actually gave me sanity
Yeah.
when I was doing the Reverend Devon character and things weren't working the way I thought they should have.
Mm.
They were the ones in my ear telling me, listen, calm down, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. This is going to happen. You're going to see in the end, even if things don't work out the way it should, years down the line, people are going to start recognizing that gimmick and telling you how good it was. You don't need, the Federation to tell you.
Yeah.
The fans will tell you. And you know something? I want to thank each and every one of the fans that have reached out. They're still sending me videos. Listen, I had matches with John Cena. I had matches with Batista, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, Val Venus. I mean, the list goes on and on. Anybody who was anyone back then, I had matches, whether they went over on me and I went over on them. But as far as I'm concerned, that character was still successful.
Brilliant. And very last question, and we're going to Big E lost the title recently. Obviously, you've worked with the New Day a lot. What's your thoughts on Big E losing the title? And also, now that we've had Kofi and Big E, who've both been champion, do you see Xavier getting a run anytime soon?
I think the process should start now. Xavier Woods for champion. I think we should do that now. I'm very happy with Big E and his title run. I'm sure this won't be the last of it, just like it won't be the last of Kofi.
Yeah.
I'm sure somewhere down the line they'll get those titles back again and get that run again. They did excellent jobs. I'm very proud of both of them, and I'm extremely proud of Xavier too. And one thing I like about them is that they're waiting their turn,
Yeah.
and when their turn comes, they're actually grabbing that brass ring and running, just running with it. So I'm very happy and proud of them,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that he had the success that he had with the world title during his run.
Yeah, I mean, I always say with the New Day, I've got a lot of respect because they were kind of three guys who were popping around, not doing much, and they got put together. And I don't believe the New Day, when it was put together, was meant to be what it become. But them three guys made it become what it was. And I've just got nothing but respect for the three of them.
Yeah, I still owe Xavier a slap in the head after he slapped me in my head during a house show. And it's funny because I don't know if the fan did it or it was WWE, but they actually got it on video where it was very quiet and he did a waist lock thing behind me and slapped me right back in the head. And then in true New Day fashion, they all get together in the corner, they start laughing. And then I start going after them, they start running, the heel. No, 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 no. But I told Xavier, I said, your day coming. Your day coming. He goes, Devon, you told me to slap you. I said, yeah, not that damn hard, man. I said, you hit me so damn hard, I thought I was back in ECW. We joke about that all the time. And he put it on his Instagram. And then anybody who he wants to show that to in front of me, he'll pull it up on his Instagram and show that part. And again, it's that silent moment where he slaps me. Not only he slaps me so hard that they hurt it in the cheap seats, but you can see the water and the sweat flying off my bald head, and he just always puts that up. He goes, man, I slapped you in that bald ass head of yours. I said, okay, Xavier. I said, okay, your day coming.
Brilliant. Well,
so I always,
yeah.
no, I was gonna say, I always tease him about the Royal Rumble. I go, when you're in that Royal Rumble, don't be surprised if that number hits and all of a sudden you hear pyro. I was like, I might come after you. He goes, if I see that, I'm going to ringside.
Brilliant. Well, Devon, I know it's pressure time, so thank you so much for joining us today. From me and everybody at WrestleBuddy.com, we really appreciate you taking your time to speak with us today. And it's a real honour for myself as well. And hopefully we can have you on again soon. Any news you want to give the guys on any appearances you're making or anything like that?
No appearances right now. Just I promote my wrestling school, which is Devon Dudley Academy, DBA, out of Winter Park, Florida. And of course, you can follow me at Testify Devon, that's DVON, or Devon Dudley Academy on Instagram and Facebook, Devon Dudley Academy, and Twitter as well. So anybody that wants to find out how the school is doing, or if you want information about the school, you can go to DevonDudleyAcademy.com for all the information to the wrestling school. And I always like to say, if you're going to pick a wrestling school with somebody that's been somewhere and that's done something, not someone who didn't make it and tried to make it, but yet opened up a warehouse, put a ring in it, and said, I'm a teacher. I'm going to teach you how to be a wrestler. They can't teach you if they couldn't teach themselves. Trust me.
And last thing I'll say before we split up, before we finish off here, is obviously you're a producer in wrestling. Give the fans what, if you could pick a match out of the matches that you've produced for the fans to go and watch now, which one would you pick?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I always enjoyed the New Day, and I'm going to say this, I'm a biased by these guys, but the New Day and the Usos in that cage match. I believe it was Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Or was it Survivor Series? Yeah, they had that cage match, and I thought that was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
Fantastic.
my matches are going to be the tag matches,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just a huge fan of theirs.
And I only wanted to add that in there because you go and watch that match, guys, and then you'll realise why you need to go to Devon Dudley Wrestling School.
There you go.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Wrestle Buddies, thanks for joining us again, Devon. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege for us to have you here on Wrestle Buddy, and we appreciate it, and hopefully we will get to speak again soon. Wrestle Buddies, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support as always. Make sure you go and look at Devon's school, follow him on social media, keep the support up, and we will see you again next time on the Wrestle Buddy podcast. Until next time, guys, thank you. Bye now.
Thank you, guys.